All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. I've got to get Dave's rear main seal fixed. It is currently a dripper. Previously, if you didn't catch the end of the last video, I did start and break in the engine, ran it about 20 minutes. And after about 10 to 12, it did start leaking. I didn't know what to do. I thought everything was perfect. Thought I did everything perfect. Well, it's kind of a common thing on some big block Mopars. You've seen it on Nick's garage. We've all seen old leaky and all that. I actually have a video from probably 3.5 years ago doing this under a car in a 72 Roadrunner. Got it fixed. It wasn't a big deal. This is pretty well wide open, but I've got a new trick today I wanted to try. And step one, we're gonna find exactly where that leak is, see if we can see it. This may be something you've never seen before on YouTube. I have no idea. Let's get into it. 500 stroker. Step one, I'm going to get the flywheel off here. So I'll be right back after doing that. It is nice with my run-in stand. Ignore the clamp, it's just hanging out. I can go through the bottom of the bell housing right there. There's just enough space to get an extension and my 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Zip those bolts right out. So far, my cam plug looks totally nice and dry, as we would hope. Both rear block plugs, the galley plugs, whatever you want to call them, totally nice and dry. This was my second repair on this. So this one has the Viton seal in it right now, and it leaked. It actually leaked faster than the other plain old black rubber seal I had, but I have no idea why. So we're going to try to figure that out. I have here my little blowgun ready to shoot some air in it here. And on the other side, I've capped that off. And if it gets too much pressure, it'll pop that little plastic out. But what we're looking for is, I'm gonna spray soapy water around this, and we're watching for bubbles. So if it bubbles, that'll tell us where the leak is. And typically, you can see here, that side of the wall, I normally fill that all the way in, but I couldn't get to it that day from underneath. But I did go ahead and put some on the cap, so if you can see that fine squished out line inside of there. I know all this is ugly, but I would rather have ugly than a leak, and nobody would ever see it anyway. This is what I wanted it to look like. And I could reach that side, but I promise you there's no oil leaking through that right there. Impossible. Maybe through there. Excuse me. Maybe through there. I doubt it. But we're going to find out. The proof's going to be in the pudding here in just a second. We are pressurized. Now we're cooking. That side rail. I'll shoot it up from the bottom. I don't see any bubbles happening, guys. You can see an oil leak down right there. Let me look from the bottom side. It's extremely hard to focus on it. Come in and out a few times. Come on. Right there. You can hear us leaking here. There it is. My regulator is over there on the beside the compressor. This is only about 10 pounds. This was this engine's actual first run when you saw it last time in a video, and someone did mention, what about a PCV valve? So I am going to get it installed before it runs again, but also I've got a brand new seal coming. Before I put it in, I know that's kind of ugly sticking up, but it'll do the job for now. Hook up on the back port of the carburetor. Before I put the or connect that. I'm gonna pull that other seal out. I've got a special seal coming that you may have heard of. I don't know if I'm the fastest pan dropper in the South, but I might be close. So taking a look in the rear, see how wide this lip is here? It has got to be holding some oil flow from coming back and down into the pan. Maybe I'm crazy, but I can feel it. It's at least a 1/4 inch or more. Like it doesn't have to be that wide. See my whole pinky disappear? So it's at least that wide. And it doesn't have to be. I may just get creative and trim that a little bit, because if oil's holding up there, you know, it took 12 minutes the first time to start dripping out of that rear main. Second time it took 4 or 5 minutes. As soon as the engine got up to temperature, about 160, 165. So what's the difference? I don't know, but that might be something. Also, if you'll remember, I chose this windage tray. This is a stroker, 500. This is a 440 windage tray made for a stock stroke. It's actually a Milodon 32,000 windage tray. And I do have adequate clearance between here and here. I checked that beforehand I ever installed it. It was tighter to the crank, meaning that, so I had a little inspiration here. This is one of those old Harbor Freight, I think it's to an air grinder or something. I got a bunch of these from, throw the $10 thing away after it dies. But there's the wrench. I just put a couple holes in it. And let me show you what I'm gonna do. Voila. Get these screwed in good. I'm not trying to pull the threads. I wanna save my retainer if I can. And I know they make different ones, but it doesn't matter what brand retainer you're using. If you would like to pull it and you're having problems, there we go. Get it even back up. Now I got a handle. There she comes. Just take my handle and pull her down. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, there it is in the block. You can see the lip is facing forward. Everything was happy. The sides were super duper sealed. They were not leaking at all. So here is the trick, I do believe. This is the Fast Fish dual lip, 1-piece rear main seal. And I've always heard about this, and it's great, and it's on the internet. So I got a hold of the owner, Jeff, and I said, hey Jeff, I got this issue. And if you look at the directions here, it does definitely say, cut the seal, lubricate, install the seal around the crankshaft the correct way, because it does say flywheel side. Let me find you there. There we go. Flywheel side. There's the opposite side. And a small amount of RTV at the bottom of the engine seal groove, install the crankshaft and seal into the block. So I think in this situation, they're wanting you to drop the crank in with this wrapped around the crank. My crank's already in, y'all already know that. So I'm going to cut this appropriately on the dot, see there, and I'm going to do my best to roll this in. It is pretty flexible. I don't think it has a metal core in it. I'm gonna roll her in with a dab of RTV on the end where they meet, and we're gonna do our best to make this stop leaking. Here's what everybody in the world wanted, and I've already done this previously. With a lighter grit sandpaper. This is 220. I'm not using 80 grit. You can forget it. That is too rough for my liking. But I got it on my piece of granite here. Keep her nice and flat. Examine. Examine. I want to keep going a little bit more. Get a nice cleaner finish on it. It's still rough enough that it will hold a little layer of silicone between there. Give the seal just a little more crush. That should do it. Looking better. So step one, find the dot. We're gonna cut her. Straight as we can with a good sharp razor blade. There's your side profile if you'd like to see it. And this serrated edge seems to be the one that goes towards the front of the engine. There's the flywheel side. So my plan is, they did send some lube. I'll use their lube on the inside of the seal. And on the outer edge, I'm gonna put a really light coat of RTV. So hopefully it'll help this roll into the block as I do it that way. This video will be brought to you by long needle nose pliers. That is probably my most favorite tool in the world. But it'll allow me to feed that up through there as far as I can. And we'll see how she goes. If I had to, I've got my large, show you, large socket and ratchet. As I'm feeding that, I may can spin the crank just a little bit to kind of help it along. The crank side's probably not going to be the challenge. I think it'll be the back side. And here's their lube. It just looks kind of like a white lithium of some kind. A little tacky. Tacky goodness. Here we go. And I'll probably start on the far side. There we are. Put my dab. Remember, it's supposed to be, you need a dab on the end. Prayers that it makes it around there. And I'll put another dab on the other end here shortly. But I want just a real light smear. There we are. A very light smear on the back side of this dude, just to give it a little bit of lubricant. A little lube never hurts in this situation. Remember, our flywheel side is the smooth side. Now we are cooking. Wish us lots of luck. Grab my pliers so I can see a little better, and maybe you can too. Good. 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 She's going. Come on, baby. I want to get it to the 10 or 12 o'clock position. 12 would be better, I do believe. And if I go too far, I can always pull it back just a hair. I feel like I'm getting fairly close. Check with my light. I'll do a little more lube on this whole bottom side of my crank. There we go. Just like that. And I'll then wipe my fingers off. Check. Bottom side of my seal. I'll put a dab of RTV on, such as that. And then a little smear, about that much, on the side that goes into the block. I feel pretty good about this. It's a positive experience so far. She'll start. There's our pliers. Oh yeah. That is it. Some handy dandy studs just to get everything lined up nicely, and my old side seals, they cleaned up good, and I just put a light coating of RTV on both sides of those. Right now I've got a good squish right up there. You can see between the cap and the block, because I put a little bit on the end of the cap itself. That looks nice. Can't see much about my seal right now, but everything pushed into place well. There we go. See the squish up there? I'll wipe that off in a minute. And I'm still not above filling this whole channel end, just because you never know if a side seal's goofy or whatever. There are guys out there that don't use the side seals at all, but right now I got to get those bolts in because there is just a little bit of rock back and forth on this thing, and you'll have that because the flat edge of the bolt, whatever you want to call it, flank or whatever, it's going to push on this cap. It's going to push on the cap right here, and it needs to be eccentric, and it'll actually push the cap flat for you. That's what's going to do that for us. So I'll go ahead and get my factory bolts in. I believe they torque to 30 foot-pounds. I'll double check that. So it is officially the next day. I got us all sealed up once again. And we are. Totally bone dry. The engine is ice cold. Filled it back up with oil again. I got myself a little bit nicer mufflers here. These are the Flow FX Flowmasters, so it'll quiet it down just a little bit. And I think we're ready to start. I can get my key turned on. It is about 28 degrees outside, I think. So the engine's much warmer than that. It's probably 41 or so. So I've been running my heaters in here, getting every little thing buttoned up. PCV's hooked up now. My new Fast Fish rear seal's in. Let's try it, see what happens. And I'll say, the first time it took about 7 or 8 minutes to leak running. Last time was probably only 4 minutes with that Viton seal. So I've taken my steps. We're gonna see what happens. Cold oil pressure's at 75. I'm gonna idle it up just a little bit and get some heat in it. Nice little 500 stroker. sound. There goes my 2x4. I like these mufflers. I've got a similar set on my race car I can put a link to on my 512. And I actually ran a length of pipe out with a flat 90-degree bend, so the thin pipes that are like that. Got a good sound to it. So far we're bone dry. Love that. Feel some heat here. She's been running 15 minutes. And she seems to be dry as a bone. There's that old oil from the last time it leaked up in the bell housing. But I have 0 drips. I have 0 film. I have nothing. I'm gonna stick my hand up in here because that'll be smart. All right, there's a totally dry glove. Beautiful. You can believe I am fully relieved. Special thanks to Jeff. I'm gonna put his info up here. I did go ahead and call him and say, hey, I got a deal with Firecore and I got a deal with Harlan Sharp. If you'd like one of these seals, he is willing to give you a percentage off, but you gotta call him direct or send him an email. Here's the website information. Super great guy. He sent this, literally had it in the mail by Thanksgiving to me. So he went out of his way to do that for me. He did not have to. I was just a stranger on the street, and he really helped me out. So if you're looking for a seal potential fix, I recommend them. I really, really am feeling so much better. This thing's ran 20 minutes now. I've had it off and on a couple times. It's heat cycled. Everything's wonderful. So I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch you next time. Start it up. All right, Mopar people.